will take questions first, but make sure I have at least 5 minutes to cover this.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Ask the Doctor, our YouTube live Q&A, where we look to receive questions from you, the audience, any and all health-related questions, and I will be looking at those messages and relay those to the doctor. We are here every Wednesday morning at 9:45 a.m. Pacific, and Mondays as well, although I do want to say this last Monday the doctor had something unexpected come up, and I apologize that we missed that live stream. We'll be back again next Monday at 6 p.m. You can ask your questions in a couple different ways. The best way is to place them in the chat section of the video over here, and you need to be logged into YouTube to do that. If you're having any trouble with that, you can email your questions into us at office@tlcdoctors.com. That's office@tlcdoctors.com. Just put in the subject line something about YouTube live Q&A, and those questions will be sent to us for the following episode. And then just a quick disclaimer, we do want to make sure that you are following up with your doctor, with your healthcare professional. This is not at all meant to take the place of your relationship with your physician. This is for education and informational purposes. So we're here to discuss how we would approach your question in our office with a patient, but please do follow up with any particular concerns you have with your doctor. All right, with that, I have a few questions ready to go here from us. We were able to grab a couple from Monday's live stream that were asked while people were waiting to go on. So, Doctor, I'll start with those. We had a question from Jennifer who asked, are there any natural ways to relieve hot flashes?
Well, yes. There are herbs that are usually attributed to giving relief to some of these climacteric reduction in estradiol, and it creates a hot flash, sometimes even profuse sweating. And so the herbs such as Don Quai, black cohosh, these kind of herbs are associated with helping, and we give the patients a supplement that has this in this called
Menofem?
Yeah, Menofem.
Right.
Yeah, that's the name of what we're using here. So there are herbs that are quite safe to use even if you have had breast cancer in the past. And so we would encourage you to pick up Menofem, and you're welcome to use this suggested dose, and if necessary you can double that.
Okay. It looks like Jennifer also asked, what kind of health conditions would benefit by getting an infrared sauna?
Well, a variety, because the infrared sauna is associated with increased microdilation of the tiny capillaries. So when that particular wavelength hits your skin surfaces, it heats it up, and the body will then vasodilate. This dilation itself enhances microcirculation, and all the blood perfusion, healing, nutritional delivery, waste removal is enhanced, whether it's for your joints or your heart or your brain or your lungs, your liver. All microcirculation therapies that enhance the circulation, such as chelation therapy, drinking enough water, taking systemic enzymes, these will help with this. So yes, I would use the infrared, and I have one myself in my bedroom. Yeah. And I use that, and I'll go in. They say that you should start with small time doses, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but I felt great, so I started at 45 minutes, and that's what I do all the time. And I'll take my temperature immediately after I get out of my infrared sauna, and my temperature will easily reach 101, sometimes 102, and so you get all the benefits of heat shock proteins. You can Google heat shock proteins and see that these are very valuable as a help with your immune system, your inflammation, and anti-aging, anti-cancer. So yeah, I would use it, infrared.
And you do use it. You do it almost every day. All right, we had another question on Monday. Looks like it's from Marmy Joe, and they ask, what are your thoughts on low-dose naltrexone for Hashimoto's fibro, pain, and fatigue?
There is mixed information on this, and I'm still sitting on the fence. Some of our clinicians here do use low-dose naltrexone.
Yeah, I know Dr. Kaur works with patients. So all of our physicians here, we share the same philosophy, but each doctor has their unique area of expertise or things that they're more comfortable with. I know Dr. Kaur often prescribes low-dose naltrexone.
Right, and that's somewhere in the realm of 4 milligrams, 4.5 milligrams. This is a compounded item. And this is associated as a anti-inflammatory type of approach in therapy. And I stick with pushing the stable things like water, fasting, low carb, the ketogenic lifestyle, eating in a window of time, noon to 6 p.m., walking, and taking systemic enzymes like Vascuzyme or Vitalzyme or Proteozyme. So it's kind of 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. There are patients who claim great relief with this, and then I've had as many patients say it didn't seem to make a difference.
Robert asks, I always hear the ratio of omega-6 to 3. They say it should be no greater than 2 to 1. I know seed oils are bad, but is the Doctor's Great Bar omega-6, and is the ratio of 6 to 3 important?
The ratio is important, and this is because of the corruption of the food system through corporately protected industry by our corrupt government. See, the seed oils were originally used and hydrogenated, meaning they went under bombardment with hydrogens to saturate the fatty acids of seed oils, like cottonseed oil, and it thickened up like butter is solid at room temperature. And then they called this Crisco, okay, and that started in 1911. So as these seed oils, which are cheap and abundant as opposed to a cow or a pig lard, they became the marketed thing. They added dye coloring to them. I remember my aunt would take the margarine and pop out a color to mix into it to give it that butter look. So, but what we have to understand is if you take a biopsy of a cow that is grass-fed and allowed free range and is not stuck in a federal agriculture stockyard eating corn, which I grew up on a farm and I never saw the cows eat the corn stalks there, never in my life, okay? And so when you biopsy the tissue of a cow, you'll see that it's close to a 1-to-1 relationship of omega-3 to omega-6. If you do the same biopsy of the stockyard cows that are fed grain, antibiotics, human growth hormone, and the like, you'll see that they are very inflamed, 20-to-1. And these seed oils that they're given and that we get in our food are hydrogenated omega-6s very often, so that they don't become rancid, so that they extend the life shelf. So omega-6 has gotten a bad name. And it should, because of the corruption of what they have done by hydrogenating all these fats for extending your life shelf and all your packaged foods. However, omega-6 is essential. Linoleic acid is an omega-6 essential to life. So it's on, the only 2 essential fatty acids are linoleic and alpha-linolenic acid, okay, and that's the omega-3. Now you get these by eating egg yolks and eating your meat and fish and chicken and pork and your various seeds and nuts and the yolk of the eggs, and that should be sufficient. We don't need to be taking in huge thousands of milligrams of omega-3 fish oils. Now if you're going to be eating a lousy packaged lifestyle food, then maybe you need 1,000 milligrams of the created fish oils to balance the horrific hydrogenated corrupted omega-6s in your diet. But why don't you just leave that and not feed that to your family or yourself and just eat real fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, chicken, fish, meat and pork, and eggs, and just not worry about it.
Okay. Penny sent us an email and she said, I am a patient of Dr. Mitchell and would like to know if there's a reason to take proteolytic enzymes to treat Hashimoto's. My daughter, 55 years of age, has been taking numerous supplements for years, but her practitioner has not suggested Vitalzyme or any other proteolytic enzymes to positively affect the thyroid antibodies. I imagine she would be willing to add these to her protocol if they would greatly impact this condition. If you do recommend, is one better than the other? I've been using Vitalzyme 3 a.m., 3 in the p.m. upon your recommendation and feel a difference in my joints even though I work out hard at the gym. And then she just goes on to thank you for the videos and for your information.
Yes, I would use systemic enzymes simply because the older you get, the less enzymes you have in your body to help cleanse away aged cells, debris, bruises, and so forth. Now, if you have an autoimmune inflammatory condition such as Hashimoto's, that is implying that there's injured cells that need to be cleared out of your thyroid and your body because of that. The other thing is all postmenopausal women move into a higher risk category of heart disease, heart attacks, and so forth after they stop their menstrual cycle. And we also believe that's partly because of the enzymes that are lost with aging. So I have my men and my women after the age of 50 or so all taking some systemic enzyme every day of their life, whether it's just aging, joint pain, Hashimoto's, low-grade inflammation from allergies like I have. I take them all the days of my life and I recommend them to everyone. Is one better than the other? I'm going to say we have clinically researched Vitalzyme, Vascuzyme, and Proteozyme. And we find them all to be very effective. So I think the only discriminating factor would be price. Vitalzyme is the most expensive, but it has the highest and longest, and it's a prescription in Japan. So we get these from Japan. So it is the most researched one out there. It is the more expensive one, and it's the one that I use. But is Vascuzyme excellent? Yes, it is. And it's much cheaper, and the same with Proteozyme. So hopefully that answers your question. Yes.
Okay. I have a couple questions coming in here from Jeff in the chat, and Jeff is saying, I have high cholesterol as it runs in my family. My last test was around 280, down from above 300, but the good to bad ratio is fine. I exercise regularly. I'm not overweight. My waist measurement is 33 inches. I eat a low-carb diet and my fast window is 12 to 15 hours a day. I don't increase the fasting window more because I space my protein doses out in order to maximize muscle protein synthesis because I do barbell strength training. I'm a healthy 55-year-old male on 0 medications with no other health conditions. My primary care physician wants to put me on statins, but having read The Great Cholesterol Myth, I'm resistant. What is your opinion on this?
I am raised by a father in food research science for Armour Foods, who was a specialist in fatty acid research. And my father was involved in trying to notify people when the cholesterol heart disease hypothesis was promulgated by Ansel Keys in the 1960s. His study was a lying, misrepresentative study and a false piece of information. And so science can be purchased. And he knew it, and the researchers at Armour Food there knew it. Dr. Engel knew it. And they all said no to the cholesterol heart disease myth. Now, it's hard to fight government and big business and the pharma companies. There are some very unique areas in which a statin may be valuable, especially if you've already had a heart attack. That implies you've lived a lifestyle that has been not good with the sugars, the inflammation, the high triglycerides and cholesterols, and oxidative stress, C-reactive protein sedimentation rate. And so these people who have had a heart attack are at risk for a second heart attack or events and death. And so in those patients, you might be more aggressive and give them a statin for a season. But this gentleman is not claiming any health history, and so
Other
it's
than family history.
Yeah, of high cholesterol.
Right.
And high cholesterol is arguably not a problem. What the problem always is the high carbohydrate processed seed oil corrupted inflammatory foods. So I'm not in favor of cholesterol unless you meet this specific criteria post-heart attack. And I am in favor of the low carb. The cholesterol number itself does not make a difference. It is your triglyceride level. And if you can keep those triglycerides when you test it at around 50 or less, some patients can get away with maybe 70 or less. That means your lifestyle and carbs are low, your inflammation is low, and your cholesterol and LDL and HDL, especially if you're exercising, will be good. So when the HDL and the triglycerides are about equal, the HDL is 60, your triglycerides are 60, then I've never seen a patient have heart disease. And we don't have heart disease in this clinic. We don't get patients with, a new heart attack and so forth. We have patients come to us who have heart disease that we're managing, but I really don't see the new cancers, the new heart disease, the new diabetes ever emerge here, because we're harping all the time on the lifestyle, diet, adequate hydration, enzymes, exercise, a good night's sleep, and so forth. So I'm in favor of that. I would recommend he go onto YouTube and look up a man by the name of Ivor, and that's his first name, Ivor. Last name is Cummin, Cummin, and put the word cholesterol with it, and you'll see all his lectures. He's an engineer. He's a gentleman well informed, and you'll see him quoting all the doctors and all the research. And one of the best YouTubes he put out is called The Cholesterol Conundrum. So if you watch this, Jeff, and then share that with your doctor and say, what do you think? Get some feedback, share that with him, and see if he too won't agree that this cholesterol emphasis is misplaced. The effort and time of the visit should be spent on how many carbs. Are you exercising? Are you drinking water? Are you getting a good night's sleep? How is your energy? And that kind of stuff.
Okay. We have another question here from Jennifer, who says that some friends who went through chemo have brain fog. Is it ever too late to help with brain fog?
No, of course. When I went to medical school 40 years ago, we were basically taught the brain and the nervous system doesn't regenerate. That has all changed now. There's brain-derived natriuretic factor and growth factors of the brain that are clearly stating that your brain does turn over. And it turns over in a low-carb body. It turns over in a intermittent fasting person. It turns over in someone who eats a anti-inflammatory diet that stays away from all this carbohydrate processed food. There are some natural things that we can do depending on the post-chemo brain. If they are not a breast cancer patient, hormones help stimulate the brain to recover. So there's many things we can do for it, yeah.
And it's never too late.
It's never too late.
That's encouraging. Well, we got through all the chat questions. How about that?
That's good.
And I know that you had some information that you wanted to share.
I wanted to bring up Dr. Robert Malone, medical doctor, is a physician, researcher, PhD, who is the inventor of the messenger RNA genetic gene therapy, okay? And as a result of Monday morning hearing that there was a FDA approval for the Pfizer, and that's what you heard. The actual truth of the matter is, if you read the 2 letters written by the FDA, if you actually get those letters and you read them and have them reviewed, that's what Dr. Robert Malone did. His website is rwmalonemd.com. rwmalone, M-A-L-O-N-E, MD.com. And on there, you'll see his blog and everything. He and several other esteemed epidemiologists, virologists, and some FDA people who are there, who are his friends long term. And remember, that's all this man has done, is develop vaccines and work on them. And he has worked with the FDA, the NIH for 30, 40 years himself. he wants you to be clear on this issue. There are two legally distinct entities, Pfizer versus BioNTech. And we say them together, Pfizer, BioNTech. That's how I've been referring to them. But actually, they're two different entities, and they are legally distinct entities. Pfizer versus BioNTech, spelled B-I-O-N, capital T-E-C-H. But otherwise, identically produced products. So he reads stating there are now two legally distinct Pfizer versus BioNTech, but otherwise identical products based on two FDA letters as well as a press release. And the analysis of these FDA products below is preliminary and subject to change. And this is the letter to Pfizer. It does not give full approval. And I'm going to say that again. It does not give full approval. What it does is it extends the emergency use authorization to allow supply of the current Pfizer vaccinations, all right, the current ones that they have under EUA because of limited supply of the BioNTech version. So no, these Pfizers are now not just suddenly authorized. This is legalese and deception in the media. The products are legally distinct with certain differences that do not impact safety or effectiveness, quote unquote, in their letter. And they go on to say, here the FDA is quietly admitting that the licensed Pfizer vaccine and the authorized Pfizer vaccine are identical with regard to safety and efficacy, but they are legally distinct entities. And that's code for one has manufactured liability, okay? So liability, while the other doesn't. It's also code for we don't want to impose a mandate on the emergency use authorization product because it's illegal to do so. But we can probably get away with a mandate on the licensed product. So this goes on for pages saying they need the license to impose the mandates, but they didn't give the license to use the Pfizer vaccine. It's the BioNTech, and it actually has a distinct name. The name of this is called Comirnaty, C-O-M-I-R-N-A-T-Y. So FDA Pfizer authorization is for Comirnaty, C-O-M-I-R-N-A-T-Y. And it's essentially the same vaccination, but they have all these tons of Pfizer product that they've made under the emergency use, and it's still emergency use authorization. And they have not available yet the Comirnaty, C-O-M-I-R-N-A-T-Y. So this is deceptive. In their own writing, they're admitting in this letter that they have warnings about the myocarditis and the pericarditis. They admit the analysis is not sufficient at this time and there are no long-term studies. And it goes on saying what they're finding, that the VAERS assessment of deaths and severe injuries is not sufficient and they don't have enough data, safety data. So the Pfizer that is out there right now is still under emergency use authorization. In legalese, the Comirnaty, essentially the same product, is not available yet. When it's going to be available, they will not say, but that's what they gave the license to. So there are many pages on this. If you go to R.W. Malone, M-A-L-O-N-E, MD.com, you can see that and the many other esteemed, world-renowned epidemiologists, virologists, immunologists discussing this, and lawyers as well. And so this is verbal twisting of the truth. So it's not approved. That Pfizer vaccine that you commonly think of available right now to go to is not allowed. and it's still the emergency use authorization until they get Comirnaty available.
Okay. Well, thanks for that information, and we have a few minutes left, and a couple questions slipped in here. Christina asks, I have a family member who's in her 40s and just started having vertigo and low blood pressure. Is there anything you can recommend? She's seeing many doctors for help. Nothing is working.
Would you read that again?
Sure. A family member in her 40s just started having vertigo and low blood pressure.
All right, so you have to see someone to make the determination, because the body habitus, the labs, are they still menstruating? Have they had a hysterectomy? How advanced are they in their aging process? Okay, so at 40, someone could have had a hysterectomy, someone could be a diabetic already, someone could have other illnesses if they're very much overweight, or they could be thin appearing but have a metabolic syndrome, fatty liver. So you can be fat on the outside, thin on the outside but fat on the inside. So there's many things
what
here.
Medications might she be on?
Otherwise. So here's another thing, is that allergies can emerge over time, and those allergies can create havoc with your system. How well hydrated is the woman? Okay, so I'm going to say this is too broad of an area. Everything that helps a human being is a good night's sleep, not eating late, drinking half your weight as ounces, your pounds as ounces every day, taking a brisk walk 20-30 minutes every day, doing some intermittent fasting, so narrowing your food intake to a 6-hour window, getting those carbs way down so you can improve circulation, and that exercise will build up vascular tone. The water will supply volumetrically her blood pressure. The sleep will provide repair and healing. The low carb diet will keep the system cleaner. The fasting will stimulate natural growth factors, stem cells, and all these kind of things.
Okay. Next question is from Maria. I got foggy after 3 milligrams of ivermectin. Would hydroxychloroquine be a good antiviral replacement? Is azithromycin or doxycycline good to take with antivirals in the early treatment of COVID?
If the frontline doctors and the FLCCC are recommending preventative treatment with ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine. Now, ivermectin seems to be taking the lead right now as far as the recommendations, and the use of that is preventatively as an isolated thing twice a week. If, however, you have symptoms and you're coming down with something like that, then you should take it every day for 5 days. So I think the addition of azithromycin could be added, of course, with zinc, if you are actually having fever, ache, myalgias, cough, that kind of symptomology, so you would see your doctor about that. As far as having some foggy thinking, this is so minimalistic. Now, everyone's different. It could be more problematic for her, but 5 days of that while you're resting, if you're symptomatic, and on the other things, I think is well tolerated. You should be resting anyway.
Okay.
And it clears up completely, and that's really not common. So.
Okay. And last question, that's an easy one to tackle. Lisa says she's 55 years old and lives in North Carolina. How do I find a holistic doctor competent in hormone balancing?
Well, I think you know the answer to that, Helen.
I would suggest that Google is your friend, and I would Google hormone replacement therapy, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy near me, put in your zip code, and look and write down the names of the clinics or the doctors' names that come up. Then go to a site like Yelp or their website, and you want to look for how long has this doctor been in business, what kind of reviews are they getting. You might find a doctor that's been in business a long time, and you go to their Yelp page and they have terrible reviews. So I think nothing is a better testimony to a doctor's competence than what people are saying word of mouth to each other. So I would do that. There are some professional associations that you can look to as well. There is ACAM, that's acam.org, and this is the American Academy for the Advancement of Medicine, and many of those doctors are very well versed in bioidentical hormone replacement therapy as well as chelation therapy. There is also the what is the other big one? IFM. IFM is another international
Institute of Functional Medicine.
Right. IFM is pretty much the leader in functional, this type of holistic doctors that balance the integrative approach of using the best tools in their toolbox, and many of them are trained in hormone replacement therapy as well. So I hope that's a resource for you.
Did she say she was from North Carolina?
Yes.
Well, I used to work at Great Smokies Medical Clinic in Asheville, and that's John Wilson, JONWILSON. So Great Smokies Medical Clinic is on Patton Avenue in Asheville, and I know he has a couple of doctors, and I know he does natural hormone replacement.
Okay. Well, I hope that helps, Lisa. All right, everyone, we are just about out of time, and I want to thank you for joining us today. Do us a favor, if this was helpful for you, hit that like button for us. That helps us get the word out and also gives us feedback that you're enjoying what we're doing. You can leave comments underneath the video. You can also subscribe to the channel, and then you will never miss any kind of content that we point out there. We've just completed construction on a production room, and we're going to be putting out more and different types of content to help educate you on health. So thank you so much for joining us today. We will be here again on Monday at 6 o'clock, and that is a longer format, so a little bit more time to get questions answered and to dig deeper. And of course, we'll be here next Wednesday at 9:45 a.m. Pacific. So until we see you again, be safe and be well.
God bless.
God bless.